I was 7,000 miles from home, finishing up a drone systems check on the tarmac at Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar when I got the text. No warning. No preamble. Just a screenshot of my own living room, a stranger's duffel bag leaning against the coffee table I built with my own hands, and 3 words beneath it. We're over. Goodbye. No name, no explanation. But I knew who it was from. And I knew exactly what it meant. I'm Eric Daly, 39, Air Force Master Sergeant, Avionics Technician. 18 years of service, 5 deployments, 2 wars, and I still wasn't ready for this. It was nearly midnight local time. I stood there for a moment, the desert heat pressing down on me like a second uniform, and read it again. The photo, that bag, the words. My wife, Jenna, had ended 12 years of marriage with a single grainy image sent across 9 time zones. I pocketed my phone and finished the systems check. The mission always came first. You learn to compartmentalize out here, to shelve your personal life when the work demands it. But that night, back in my bunk, the numbness wore off just enough for the questions to start bleeding in. How long had she been planning this? Who was the duffel bag for? I hadn't been home in 4 months, long enough, apparently, for someone else to take my seat at the table. I didn't reply. Not that night. Not the next. Didn't ask why or who. Didn't beg for an explanation. Military life teaches you to hold your ground in the storm, to wait for the dust to settle before you move. But I wasn't blind either. Before I left, there were signs. Missed calls. Excuses about late nights at the marketing firm. That distracted look she'd get when I talked about re-enlisting. New passwords. Fewer photos of us on social media. More photos of her at those after-work networking events. I'd started hedging my bets months ago. Opened a private account where I'd been stashing part of my re-enlistment bonus. Rented a small climate-controlled unit on the edge of Tucson, tucked away copies of our important documents, my DD-214, car titles, insurance policies, all in my name. Even moved a few keepsakes there. The silver compass my grandfather carried through Korea. A photo of my parents on their wedding day, creased and fading at the corners. I wasn't looking for a fight. I just wasn't going to be caught defenseless. As I sat there, the bass's hum buzzing faint in the distance, I felt no urge to punch a wall or curse her name. No, what I felt was colder. Calmer. Like the pre-flight silence before the engine's roar. Because Jenna didn't know I'd prepared for the worst. And she sure as hell didn't know that I wasn't the kind of man who lets go without a plan. 2 days passed before I responded. Not to Jenna, she'd made her position clear, but to Staff Sergeant Moreno, my shift lead. I requested a schedule adjustment, told him I needed a few hours at the comms hub. Everything good, Daly? He asked, not prying, just doing what good leaders do. Family stuff, I said. That was enough. I slipped into the comms tent early the next morning, logged into the secured network, and pulled up my bank accounts. First thing I saw? A withdrawal, $24,000 gone from the joint savings. Moved the day after I deployed. A second account, a smaller one we'd built for emergencies? Wiped clean. I leaned back in the chair, exhaled slow. In the sterile glow of the screen, it felt almost surgical, the way she'd carved me out of my own life. $24,000. Half of everything we'd saved since buying the house outside Tucson. That was meant for the next chapter, the cabin we'd talked about building up in Flagstaff once I retired. Gone. I scrolled through the transactions, seeing the pattern. First small withdrawals, $500 here, $1,000 there. Then larger chunks. A final clean sweep. The timing lined up too perfectly. I clicked open the mortgage account. Still active. Payments made on time. The house itself was in both our names, but the loan, secured through the VA, was under mine. I clicked over to the home security system. Jenna hadn't changed the login. The front door camera feed opened first. A man I didn't recognize, maybe late 30s, shaved head, sleeves of tattoos down both arms, coming and going at all hours. Same guy from the duffel bag photo. Another feed, this one the backyard. The pool lights glowed soft blue against the desert sky. I watched Jenna there one evening, sharing a bottle of wine with the same man, sitting on the edge of the deck I'd built the summer before. No anger. Just a slow tightening in my chest. A dull pressure that settled deeper the longer I watched. When I closed the feed, I felt the clarity wash over me. This wasn't about the man. He was a symptom, not the cause. Jenna had made her choices. So had I. I started making a list in my head, things I'd need to check, things I'd need to secure. Pull the latest copy of the mortgage documents. Review the joint credit card statements. Verify my pension accounts were locked tight. Reach out to Adam Walsh, a buddy from my first deployment who'd left the Air Force to become a lawyer. It wasn't about revenge. Not yet. But there's something about military training, it teaches you how to fight the battle that's coming, not the one you wish for. And right now, I could feel the first shots had been fired. She just didn't know I was about to fire back. Adam Walsh picked up on the second ring. "Daily," he said, voice gruff but familiar. "Still collecting sand in your boots?" "Still flying blind most days," I replied. "You got a minute?" "For you?" "Always." Adam had traded his fatigues for a suit years back. He worked estate law now in Phoenix, clean offices, tidy contracts. But we'd deployed together twice, and that kind of bond sticks. When I told him what was going on, there was a pause on his end, long enough I thought the call dropped. "She sent you what kind of text?" he asked finally. I told him about the screenshot. The duffel bag. The stranger in my house. "And she's been moving the money for months?" I gave him the rundown, joint accounts drained, mortgage still intact, but something felt off. Jenna wasn't the type to play small ball. If she was leaving, there had to be more to it. "She's not just walking away," I said. "She's setting something up." Adam's voice shifted into that cool, tactical mode I remembered from our field days. "You have access to the accounts still?" "For now." "Good. Keep it that way. Start pulling copies of everything, statements, transactions, mortgage docs, anything with your names attached." "And Eric?" "Yeah?" "Do not tip her off yet. Not until we know what we're dealing with." I closed my eyes, leaned back in the stiff metal chair inside the comms tent, and let his words settle. "I'll start digging on my end," Adam continued. "You're in Qatar, right? How much longer?" 2 more months, give or take. That's enough time. Let her feel comfortable. Let her think you're just rolling over." I hung up feeling that old familiar sensation, half adrenaline, half ice. The one you get before a mission when everything's quiet but your gut's screaming that something's about to go loud. That night, after my shift, I pulled up Jenna's social media accounts. Everything looked normal on the surface. Selfies at the gym. Photos with the dog. Inspirational quotes about new beginnings. But a post from 2 weeks ago caught my eye, a shot of a lake house captioned "Next Chapter in the Works." No details. No location tag. Just a photo of the kind of place we used to daydream about owning. I checked the timestamp. 2 days after the last withdrawal from our savings. A gut punch, but also a breadcrumb. I snapped a screenshot, added it to the growing folder I'd started, evidence, details, proof. Back in the bunk, Ramos glanced over from his cot. "You're wound tight, Daly." "Just tired," I lied. Ramos didn't press. The truth? I wasn't tired. I was wide awake. Jenna thought she'd left me halfway around the world with nothing but an empty house and drained accounts. What she didn't know was that I'd been trained for situations where the terrain shifts beneath your feet. And I was just getting started. 3 days later, Adam called back. "Got something," he said without preamble. "You were right. She's not just planning a clean break." I sat up straighter in the break room chair, empty coffee cup in hand, staring at the peeling paint on the metal table in front of me. "What did you find?" "She's been in contact with a realtor," Adam said. "Name's Travis Kincaid. Works out of Prescott, a couple hours north of Tucson." Prescott. That explained the lake house photo. She wasn't just moving out, she was trying to move up. "She listed the house already?" I asked. "Not yet," Adam said. "But there's a preliminary appraisal request. She's had Kincaid over to evaluate the property." I clenched my jaw. "Without my consent?" "Mortgage is in your name," Adam reminded me. "She can't legally sell without you. But she can stir the pot, make offers, line up buyers under the table." "She playing it as if I'm not coming back?" I asked. "Something like that," Adam said. "Kincaid has a reputation. Moves properties fast, no questions asked, cash buyers preferred. Deals that don't always make it to the official listings." It wasn't just betrayal. It was strategy. She wanted the house sold before I could even get my boots back on American soil. What's her angle? I asked, pacing the narrow confines of the tent. Adam paused. You said the joint accounts were drained? Yeah. She's probably banking on the equity in the house to fund her next move. And she thinks I won't fight it. That's the mistake. The words settled heavy. I wasn't just dealing with a marriage ending, I was staring down someone who thought I was too far away to push back. Adam sent over the details. Kincaid's firm, the appraisal notes, even a speculative asking price, about 20% below market value. Quick sale territory. Enough to move fast, no questions asked. I forwarded the whole file to my secure email, then stared at the screen, letting it all soak in. Back in the States, Jenna was setting the board. Draining accounts. Lining up a sale. Rewriting the narrative. But she hadn't accounted for me watching from the outside. I logged into the security cameras again. Watched as Kincaid himself, a slick-looking guy in khakis and a polo, walked the property line with Jenna. She laughed at something he said, pointed out the backyard view like it was a selling feature. Like it wasn't her home. I took a screenshot of the moment. Saved it in the growing file. She could list the house. She could drain the savings. But it was still my name on the mortgage. My name on the paperwork. My life built brick by brick into those walls. And no one, especially not Jenna, was going to take that from me without a fight. By the time the sun rose over the tarmac, I had a plan. Adam and I mapped it out in a half-hour call before my shift. Nothing dramatic. Not yet. Just enough to throw a wrench in Jenna's gears. First move? Lock down the house. Adam filed a notice of interest with the county recorder's office, legal language that put a flag on the property. Meant any sale or refinancing required my explicit sign-off. Jenna wouldn't know it until she tried to move the pieces. Second move? Freeze the joint credit line. It wasn't much, but a $15,000 home equity line sat untouched until I saw a charge pop up in the app 2 days ago. $482 at a boutique furniture store in Sedona. A place we'd never shopped. Clearly, the duffel bag guy had expensive taste. I called the bank. Verified my ID. Froze the line immediately. Third move? Shore up my pension. I'd never thought much about it, my thrift savings plan, my retirement accounts. But Adam insisted. We switched beneficiaries, relocked the accounts, and set alerts for any unusual access attempts. Jenna couldn't touch them, but I wasn't about to leave a door cracked. By the time the paperwork was filed, my shift was over, and I sat on the mess hall patio watching the sky darken over the desert. Plan in place. Lines drawn. That's when the text came. Why did the bank call me? No greeting. No apology. Just straight to the point. Classic Jenna. I stared at the message, felt the pull to respond. To lash out. But I kept my hands still. She followed up 5 minutes later. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Harder than she needed it to be? I nearly laughed. I closed my phone, set it on the table, and stared out across the base. The thing about a deployment, it teaches you patience. You learn to wait for the right moment. Don't force the fight. Let it come to you. But I wasn't sitting still either. Adam called again the next day. I pulled the appraisal from the county site. And? Kincaid submitted it under both your names, makes it look legit. But your signature is, well, not yours. The line went quiet for a moment. She forged me. Adam let out a breath. Sloppy. But yeah, I'm pretty sure. The calm that settled over me wasn't the kind you get from letting something go. It was the kind that comes when you know exactly what you need to do next. Good, I said. Let her keep going. Adam chuckled under his breath. You're enjoying this. I'm preparing, I said. Big difference. Because Jenna thought the distance made me weak. She thought time zones and oceans made me powerless. But I'd spent a career working under pressure. And she was about to find out just how well I operate when I've got a target. 2 weeks. That's how long I let Jenna operate like nothing had changed. She still posted sunset selfies from the backyard. Still tagged locations like Sedona, Prescott, and Lake Havasu, all within striking distance of that cabin life she'd hinted at. She was laying down roots, or at least trying to. I stayed quiet. Patient. Adam worked the back end. He subpoenaed the real estate documents, flagged the appraisal with the forged signature, and kicked it over to the county fraud division. Nothing happened overnight, but the wheels were turning. Then came the break. Eric, Adams said over a secure call one afternoon, "You ever hear of a guy named Nolan Price?" The name meant nothing to me. "He's the one Jenna's really dealing with," Adam continued. "Private buyer. Pays cash. Flips properties. And guess who his real estate agent is? Kincaid." Bingo. Adam sent over the details. Price had purchased 3 homes through Kincaid in the last 2 years, each one sold under market, no inspections, cash in hand. Quick flips, no paper trail. But the kicker? Price had been sued twice. Quiet settlements, but the allegations were the same, coercing vulnerable sellers into offloading properties fast and cheap, usually during personal crises. Divorces. Job losses. Deployments. My stomach turned. I wasn't the first. Wouldn't be the last. But I was the one who'd fight back. "She's trying to unload the house to this guy?" I asked. "Looks that way." Price has a pattern. He waits until the seller's desperate, then lowballs them hard. The kind of deals that don't make it to the public listings. "What's next?" "I filed a fraud complaint with the state," Adams said. "But that takes time." I shook my head. "I don't have time. She's too close." Adam paused, then his voice dropped into that old familiar rhythm, the tone he used back in the sandbox when plans started coming together. "Okay, let's flip this." That night, I logged back into the security cameras. The backyard feed glowed in the desert twilight. Jenna was out there with Mr. Duffel Bag again. Laughing. Drinking wine. It was the same routine, night after night, like the life we'd planned was just a placeholder until her real one started. I took screenshots. Timestamped them. Added them to the folder Adam was building. But I wasn't watching them for anger anymore. I was watching to confirm what I already knew. They were comfortable. Too comfortable. Adam and I drafted a letter. Made it official. Sent it to Kincaid, to Price, to Jenna. It wasn't aggressive. Just a simple legal notice reminding everyone that the property couldn't be sold, refinanced, or transferred without my consent. It was the first domino. Because Jenna thought I was playing catch-up. But the truth? I'd just taken the lead. 3 days after the letter went out, Jenna broke the silence. A long-winded email this time, formal, polished, almost like she'd drafted it with Kincaid at her side. "Eric, we both know the marriage is over. There's no need to complicate things further. I found a buyer who's offering a fair price given the current market. Let's wrap this up so we can both move on." I stared at the screen for a long moment, half smiling at the word fair. She thought I wouldn't know better. That I hadn't watched the market in Tucson climb steadily for 2 years. She was trying to sell the house for nearly 50 grand under value. But I didn't reply. Not yet. I forwarded the email to Adam, who called an hour later. "She's trying to bait you," he said. "Get you to agree verbally before the fraud investigation lands. She's getting nervous." Exactly. We're getting close. That night, back at the security feed, the mood at the house had shifted. Jenna was pacing the backyard alone, phone pressed to her ear, gesturing sharply. Duffel bag guy, his name was Cody, according to Adam's background check, leaned on the patio railing, watching her like he'd rather be anywhere else. The cracks were showing. Adam filed one more motion, this one a lease pendens, a legal notice to prospective buyers that there was a dispute tied to the property. It made the house toxic for any deal. 2 days later, Jenna called. I didn't answer. So she texted, "Eric, this is ridiculous. Stop dragging this out. We're both adults." I let her sweat. Next, Kincaid emailed a thinly veiled threat. "We understand you've filed legal notices that could complicate a potential sale. If this is a misunderstanding, let's clear it up quickly before legal costs mount." Adam laughed when he read it. "They're desperate now," he said. "Kincaid's worried the fraud complaint will stick." But the real confirmation came that night. I logged into the camera feed. Cody was there, pacing, throwing his arms up. I couldn't hear the words, but the body language was clear. Jenna stood still, arms crossed, unmoving. I hit record, watched them argue in my backyard. Then Jenna did something I didn't expect. She grabbed Cody's arm, said something that made him pull away hard. He stormed off through the side gate, slamming it behind him. I sat back, watching her alone in the yard, sipping from a wine glass, staring at the pool like it might offer an answer. The cracks were no longer just showing. They were splitting wide open. And I hadn't even shown my full hand yet. Adam's call came at dawn, the desert sky just starting to glow orange beyond the tent flaps. "We've got them," he said, voice tight, energized. "County Fraud Division reviewed the forged appraisal. They're launching a formal investigation into Kincaid. Your signature was the nail in the coffin." I rubbed a hand over my face, leaning back in my bunk. "So what happens now?" "They'll freeze the listing process," Adam said. "Kincaid's license is on the line. And Jenna, what about her? She's about to get served." The plan was simple: keep the pressure steady, give her just enough rope to hang herself. Adam drafted a formal cease and desist sent directly to Jenna, Kincaid, and Nolan Price. It spelled out the fraud allegations, the legal filings, the ongoing investigation. If they continued pushing the sale, they'd face criminal charges. I watched the email go out from my bunk, felt the tension in my chest shift. Not relief, not yet, but the first edge of control settling back into place. For hours later, my phone buzzed. "Jenna, what the hell is this? Are you trying to ruin me?" "For the first time in months," I replied. "No, you've done that yourself." 3 dots appeared, then vanished. I could picture her standing in the kitchen, phone in hand, the same counter where we used to lean in the mornings, drinking coffee and planning vacations that never happened. She called next. I let it ring out. Then she texted again. "Can we talk? Please." It felt strange. After all the silence, after watching her build this secret life, to know the balance had shifted. She was scrambling now, the walls closing in. I waited until the next morning before replying. "Meet me on a video call. Tomorrow, 1900 hours. You bring your truths. I'll bring mine." Adam grinned when I told him. "About time you took the stage." When the call connected the next evening, Jenna looked tired. Eyes puffy, lips pressed tight like she was bracing for impact. "I didn't want it to go this way," she said, voice softer than I remembered. "We could have worked this out without. You forged my signature." She flinched. I leaned forward, voice steady. "You lied. You tried to sell our house out from under me. You drained our savings." She opened her mouth but didn't speak. I pulled up a window on my screen, shared it. The footage from the backyard. Cody pacing, yelling, her gripping his arm. "You didn't just cheat," I said. "You conspired." Tears welled in her eyes, but they didn't move me. I'd seen too much, buried too much. "I'm giving you one chance," I said. "Full confession. You walk away from the house, the money, and this ends here. You fight me, and the state presses charges." She wiped her face, silent. For the first time since that photo of the duffel bag hit my phone, Jenna understood the battlefield she'd wandered into. And I had home court advantage now. Anna didn't respond right away. The silence stretched across the video call, her face frozen like she was still calculating the odds. But there were no odds left. "I wasn't trying to ruin you," she whispered finally, voice cracking. I needed a fresh start." I leaned back in my chair, let her words hang in the air. I wasn't here for apologies. I wasn't here for her guilt. "I offered you a clean break," I said. "You turned it into a war." She bit her lip, glancing off screen, probably wishing Cody or Kincaid could step in, rescue her from the consequences. But they were knee-deep in their own mess. Kincaid's license under review, Price's deals flagged, Cody long gone. According to Adam, he'd bolted from Tucson after learning about the investigation. "I can't lose everything," she said, more desperate now. I stayed silent. "You don't understand what it's been like. Waiting for you to come home, never knowing if the next knock on the door is going to be 2 guys in uniform." I stiffened. That line, the military wife lament, might have worked once. But not now. I understand better than you think, I said flatly. You chose to leave before I ever did. She looked away again, wiping at the corner of her eye. I ended the call without another word. Adam filed the final papers the next day. Settlement terms laid out clear and sharp. Jenna forfeited any claim to the house. Walked away from the equity. No spousal support, no share of my pension, nothing. In exchange, I wouldn't press criminal charges. It wasn't about the money anymore. I could have fought for it, dragged her through the courts, made her bleed every last dollar she siphoned off. But that wasn't my mission. I wanted her out of my life. Clean. No more hooks in me. The signed settlement came back 2 days later, along with a brief note. I never wanted this to happen. I hope someday you can forgive me. I didn't reply. The fraud investigation into Kincaid and Price continued. Price was facing federal charges, money laundering, wire fraud, the works. Kincaid's license was suspended indefinitely. Adam told me I'd likely be asked to testify, but it wouldn't be for months. I took a breath. For the first time in a long while, I felt the weight shift off my shoulders. Jenna was gone. The house was mine. But as I scrolled through the camera feeds one last time, watching the empty backyard sway under the Tucson night sky, I knew I couldn't stay there. That house wasn't home anymore. 2 months after the settlement papers were signed, I put the house on the market. But this time, on my terms. Full appraisal. Market value. No shady cash buyers, no backdoor deals. Just a clean sale. Took 6 weeks to close, and when it did, I felt the last thread tying me to Jenna snap for good. The profits sat in my account untouched for a while. I wasn't sure what came next. Tucson didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like the scene of a crime, even though I'd won. Adam called not long after the sale finalized. You heading back to Arizona anytime soon? No, I said. I'm done there. He paused. I figured. What about Kincaid and Price? Still tangled up in court. Price will serve time. Kincaid might wriggle out with probation, but his career's over. Good. There wasn't much more to say. A month later, I rotated back stateside. The base felt smaller than I remembered. The desert sky traded for the dull glow of the airstrip lights. I stayed a few weeks at a buddy's place near the base, keeping quiet, recalibrating. Then I bought a plot of land outside Durango, Colorado. 3 acres tucked near the tree line, a winding creek cutting through the back. No neighbors close enough to hear a thing, just the wind and the pines. I used some of the house proceeds to put a down payment on a modest cabin. 2 bedrooms, enough space for me and the German Shepherd pup I picked up from a rescue shelter, named him Ranger. Fit, loyal, kept me grounded. The days settled into a rhythm. Morning walks with Ranger. Fixing up the cabin, nothing fancy, just sanding, painting, putting my mark on the place. The military pension covered most things. I picked up some contract work on drone systems when I felt like it, kept my hands busy. Life slowed down. Every now and then I'd get updates from Adam. Another case Price was tied to. Another family that nearly lost everything. I was the one who'd broken that pattern. That thought stayed with me more than anything. Jenna? Heard she'd moved up to Flagstaff. Renting, starting over. Cody was long gone. Didn't bother looking deeper. That chapter was closed. But one afternoon, about a year after everything ended, I got a letter. Handwritten. Postmarked from San Diego. No return address. You don't know me, but you helped save my parents' home. They're older, Dad's a retired Navy chief. Someone tried to buy their house out from under them. Price. But when the court flagged his deals because of your case, it stopped everything. Thank you for fighting back when others didn't. I folded the letter slowly, read it twice, then pinned it to the wall above my workbench. Some battles you choose. Some find you. And some remind you that walking away isn't the same as giving up. I didn't just walk away from Jenna. I reclaimed something bigger. My peace. My future. My coordinates.